Hi, this is Bernard Harris, and welcome to BTalk. Today I have with me my former ex-teammate in Turku, Finland, and now present-day coach of the German men's national team, Gordon Herbert. What's up, Gordy? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. You?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm still hanging in there. That's I'm still hanging in there. We met, man, back in the late '80s when we both were playing in Turku, Finland. You remember those days?
I sure do.
Yeah, those were fun days, man. Uh, you grew up in Canada. Let's talk a little bit about your background, how you got started in basketball. How'd you get started?
Actually, growing up, I was my love was hockey.
Okay.
I was a much better hockey player than basketball player, but my mother had played basketball, and she kind of pushed me into it. I kind of grew too early for hockey.
Okay. Yeah.
Basketball. And basketball wasn't that big in Canada, and I always had a goal to go to the States on a scholarship and play down the States. And
Okay.
I did that for 5 years, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. The college atmosphere in the States, and yeah.
Yeah, it's different. It's different. It is different. What was your favorite player when you were growing up? Who was your favorite player?
Oh boy, you know what? When I was growing up, we had in Canada, we were lucky to get one NBA game a week, and sometimes we would get one a month. And I actually didn't watch that much NBA growing up because we just never got it. What we got was Notre Dame football up in Canada.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you basically didn't have much NBA influence at that time. How do you see the Canadian situation now in basketball since your days of playing?
Oh, it's completely different. I mean, there's a huge growth in Canada, especially in the Toronto area, and now it's growing in more to Quebec. But there's I don't know, I want to say at least 20 players in the NBA right now from Canada.
At least, yes, yes.
A lot of very good players in Europe, and there's more and more coming. It's they tell me in the States now one of the best recruiting areas is the Toronto area.
Okay.
College in the States.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of the Canadians, they go to prep schools in the States now when they're 14, 15 years old. And,
Wow.
Yeah, so it's unbelievable what's happened in Canada.
What do you think caused the initial growth of basketball?
I think Steve Nash really had a lot to do with it, winning 2 MVPs in the NBA earlier on, and I think a lot of kids started playing after that, and I think the coaching at the lower levels got a lot better in Canada, especially in the Toronto area, Vancouver area, and I think Steve Nash had a lot to do with it.
How would you rank Canada on a global map in basketball?
That's a good question. FIBA rankings, I think Canada's only, I want to say 18th or 19th.
Really? For real? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we just haven't done very well. And, there's big issues with getting the best players to play.
Yeah.
A lot of the players in the NBA don't play. For example, we played in the World Cup in 2019. We had 2 NBA players out of 20.
Okay, yeah.
So there's issues there, or not issues, it's just problems. On paper, I would say we're a top four or five team in the world. If you look at our NBA players, just our NBA players, we might be number 2 in the world.
Yeah, in my eyes, you're right behind the States, right behind the States. Yeah, I can't see any. If you can get all the players together that you have on paper, you have to be right behind the States.
Yeah, the problem though is these NBA players have never played FIBA basketball. And as you know, FIBA basketball is much different than NBA basketball. They grew up going to prep schools in the States, playing AAU, NBA. A lot of them only played 1 year of college. So it's been a real issue or a problem. The understanding of FIBA basketball is completely different.
You've coached in both, and you've played also. You didn't play in the NBA, but you played in the Olympics. Was it 1984? What do you see are the differences?
I just think the NBA rules really, the rules create space for the superstars to play.
Okay.
A lot of times in the NBA, there's one pass, one action in play. And because of the defensive rules, spacing is created on the offensive end. And I think it's just a much different game. In FIBA, it's the court's a little bit narrower. It's more team-oriented, I think, moving the ball side to side. On defense, you can get in help side. You can clog up stuff. Where in the NBA, you really can't do that. So it's an adjustment for NBA players to play in FIBA.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be. It certainly seems to be. So from your high school, you went to the University of Idaho. Am I correct?
Yeah, I was at Idaho. I had a great experience. My senior year, we were ranked 4th in the nation.
Yeah, you guys made the Sweet 16.
Yeah, we actually beat, I think, 4 or 5 Pac-10 teams on the road that year. Made it the Sweet 16. We had our coach was Coach of the Year in the United States. I mean, it was unbelievable experience.
Okay. Would you say that that's been? I know you had a lot of good experiences in basketball. Would you say that would be one of your best experiences?
I would say that and playing in the Olympics, those two were the best experiences.
Okay.
As a player.
Okay. So from Idaho, what was your next step?
I went to Hyvinkää, Finland, and played there for 1 year. Went to Belgium, then I came back to Hyvinkää.
Okay.
And then the next year, I was in Turku with you.
Yeah, that's when we played together. I can't remember, but I guess we had a decent team. I want to say we had it. That was the time, during the time you were trying to get your Finnish citizenship, right?
Right. I applied for my Finnish citizenship, and it took me about a year after that to get it.
Okay.
But we had a pretty good team. I mean, we had Jan Kvatka, Petri Voutilainen.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Roy Harrod. I think Harri Koskinen was our coach.
Yeah, Harry was probably still the coach at that time, and Roy was a good player.
Yeah, very good.
I see Roy. I won't say quite often, but I still see Roy every once in a while, and he's still playing. He's still playing in the senior league and stuff, and still doing his thing. How many teams did you play for in Finland?
Good question. I think about 5. Hyvinkää, Turku, Forssa, Helsinki, Nammikka, Uusikaupunki.
Which town did you like the best?
I think Turku as a city was a really nice city. Not too big, very nice city. I'd probably say Turku.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Turku is my favorite Finnish city, for about the same reasons that you just named. And you got married. You got married here in Finland. You've had 2 sons here, and I know you speak Finnish very well. So, do you still speak Finnish?
I speak Finnish when I come back to Finland.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think I speak okay, and I made an effort to learn. I took courses to learn.
Okay.
I went to University of Escala to study. do my master's degree, and I had to have some kind of knowledge of Finland to get in, the Finnish language to get in. So I did study a little bit, and I made an effort. Very difficult language. My Finnish is actually a lot better than my German.
So you think German is harder to learn than Finnish?
I think once you get older, everything gets.
Well, yeah. Speaking English gets harder. That's for sure. No doubt about that. So you played up until 1994, and that's when you started coaching. And you started coaching in Uusikaupunki.
Right.
Did you have any previous coaching experience before you started in Uusikaupunki?
No, I'll tell you, as a player, I thought I knew everything about coaching.
Don't we all?
And I think players today are the same. And but once I started coaching, I realized I knew nothing about coaching, and completely different. And I have a lot more respect for the coaches I played for now than I did when I played. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
And when I started coaching, I mean, it took me probably about 7-8 years to really feel comfortable with my philosophy. And the biggest thing for me was getting out of Finland after 5 years and getting abroad and be able to develop myself in that way. That really helped me.
Okay. Going into coaching is a little bit like when you're growing up as a teenager and your parents are telling you things and you don't want to listen. You think you know everything. But when you get up to, let's say, 30 years old, you realize how smart your parents were.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've talked to some players and a couple guys who played for Rick Majerus in the States, and they told me, I wish I would have listened to him a little bit more when I was in college. I mean, players have no idea, some of them. I'm not saying all players, but I'm talking, 80, 90% of the players.
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah.
For sure. So once you got into coaching, I would say your basketball career took off. It took off. That's what that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I was basically as a player, I was just kind of trying to make do with what I had.
Yeah.
And, the best thing for me was getting hurt and getting coaching. My knees kind of broke down, and the best thing for me was, I've coached at a much higher level than I ever played at.
Right.
And, but it's, coaching can be a ruthless job, and it's a great job. It can also be a ruthless job.
Yes.
But I've had some great experiences coaching in different countries, different cultures, coaching the NBA, coaching 3 different teams in the EuroLeague. And I've had some great experiences. And the great part is you're still learning. And, things change, you adjust to the times, you make adjustments to your philosophy, and you keep learning.
So let's go down the list of teams that you've coached for. Corey Height, Espoo Honka, Aberwart Gunners, S. Oliver Würzburg. Is it Würzburg?
Yes.
Skyliners Frankfurt, Paris Basket Racing. You coached the Georgian national team. Pau Ortez, Aris in Greece, Toronto Raptors, you were an assistant. Espoo Honka again, Skyliners, Alba Berlin, Skyliners Frankfurt, Avtodor, which is in the VTB league. And now you're the German national team head coach. And during that time, you were FIBA Euro Cup champion, 2016, French Cup winner, 2007, German League champ, 2004, BBL Coach of the Year 2016, Australian League Coach of the Year in the year 2000. That's a long resume. That's a long resume. Do you ever sit down and just think about it? Think about what you've accomplished and how many players and teams that you have influenced.
Boy, that was a long list. I never.
And one more, man. You also served as a consultant to Kenny Atkins with the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, actually, these last 2 years have been a great experience for me. I mean, I think to a certain extent, I stayed in Frankfurt a little bit too long.
Okay.
I coached the Canadian national team in the windows. I was actually offered the Canadian national team head coaching job in 2018.
Okay.
Frankfurt said no, and then Nick Nurse came in, and I was associate head coach, so to speak.
Okay.
The team wasn't there, and then I was a coach consultant with the Brooklyn Nets, which was a great experience. Unbelievable how much the NBA has changed in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And then coaching the VTB League was outstanding experience.
Okay.
The last two or three years have been great for me. The only problem is I'm getting old. And,
well, that's life. That's life. We all, if you're lucky, you get old. Only the only the unlucky ones don't live to get old. So it's not all bad. It's not all bad. What coach would you say has had the most influence on your coaching career?
Boy, that's a good question. I think way back when I played for the Canadian national team in the 1980s,
Okay.
Jack Donahue had a huge influence, especially on life.
Okay.
My coach at the University of Idaho, Don Munson, had a huge influence on me, more on basketball.
Okay.
And, real hard ass. I was so scared I would walk all the way around the campus so I wouldn't have to walk by his office.
I know the feeling on that.
He was old school from Judd Heathcote and Michigan State. So, I mean, those two really had a big influence on my life early on. And and then later on when I got to Germany, the Yugoslavian influence really helped me. There was a lot of Yugoslavian influence in Germany and Greece and different places. That really helped me.
Okay.
I'd probably say those three things. And coaching the VTB League was excellent. I think there was only one Russian coach. There was coaches from Greece, Spain, Lithuania, Serbia, Croatia. It was outstanding, and that even last year it was a really good learning experience. So, I think there's different coaches all along the line that really, and when you play in really good leagues, you're coaching against really good coaches, and you learn there.
Exactly. Yep. You were just mentioning how the NBA has changed and how times in basketball has actually changed. You started coaching in 1994. How have you had to change your philosophy of coaching with the times?
Yeah, 1994, I was just kind of feeling my way around. We were pretty successful that year. We went to the finals. And probably the worst thing ever happened to me. I thought I knew everything, and I still knew nothing. And I just think the way the game has changed, it changes year by year. You have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to adjust what you're doing. You have to be able to learn. And if you get stuck in one place and you stop learning, you're going to get left behind. You're probably going to get fired. And so I think, my philosophy has changed. It's even now it's different than it was 3-4 years ago. I do different things. I've adjusted to the way I've coached, and I think now too you have to have. It's even become more important. I mean, the NBA especially, but even Europe, you have to really develop relationships with your players. I deal on two things: trust, respect, and from there do things professional. And to a certain extent, as a head coach, I have to set the example that I want from our staff and what I want from our players, and of professionalism, of trust and respect.
So you would say that the best way to learn and go forward as a coach is coaching against other good coaches. Similar as to playing. Players play against good players, they get better.
Absolutely, and I think it's also good to have a connection with 3 or 4 coaches that you can talk to, and I have a connection with both 3 or 4 coaches that I'm really close with, and you can feed off ideas. They might watch your game, you might watch their game, and give back influence. And this thing, it's the same as players. You play against better players, you get better. Play against better coaches, or real good coaches, it challenges you to get better.
What is, if you just had to go back and think about it, what's the one game you remember the most as a coach?
Oh, good or bad?
either one.
I think in 2016 when we won the FIBA Cup in France.
Okay.
The FIBA Cup was really good that year because it was the year before the Champions League came in. So the quality of the FIBA Cup was really good. It was the 3rd best European league after the Euro League and the Euro Cup.
Okay.
So to me, that was a great experience in 2016, winning that. The downside of that was I thought we should have won the German championship that same year, and we did not. We lost in the semifinals to Ulm. So that was the tough part of that year. But it was one of the best groups of players I've ever coached.
So would you say that would also go into one of your worst games you would remember? The final game when you lost that game?
I think the worst game would be the first game of the semifinals in the German league. We played home, and they shot 44 free throws, and
wow,
we lost by 3, and we lost home court advantage. And winning on the road in Germany is really tough. And I think we won at home the next game by 35, but we lost 3 close games down in Ulm, or 2 close games down in Ulm, and we got knocked out. To me, that was one of the most disappointing parts of my coaching career, because we had a team that could win the championship, and you don't have that chance very often.
Do you agree? Some people, well, a lot of people say that a coach is only as good as his players. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with it. I mean, you have a group of players and you have your philosophy, and you have to adjust your philosophy to your strength of your players. And nowadays, I mean, a lot of it's recruiting, getting players that fit. In Frankfurt, because of our budget, we always took risks on players, and sometimes it worked out great, sometimes not. And but to a certain extent, we had to take young players. There's 2 things: you can develop success, or you can buy a success. We were in a situation where we had to develop success and get our players better. And so we did a lot of individual work with our players, and we signed players to 3-4 year contracts.
Okay.
That we'd be able to keep those players.
Your son Daniel is working with you, and from what I understand, he has a really great eye in spotting good players, scouting good players, and giving you good feedback.
Yeah, he's been scouting for me for about 10 years. I mean, he told me about Carl Hines about 10, 12 years ago when he was A2 Italy. I thought he was too small.
Okay.
And, but he's the one who got us Justin Cobbs, Jordan Theodore. He got us some great point guards just with his eye. And he has a chance to be a really outstanding coach. I mean, his IQ's off the charts. He sees talent. If he stays with it, he'll be a much better coach than I was.
Well, that's the way it should be. You want your kids to be better than you.
Yeah. No, so right now he's going to be one of my assistant coaches with the German national team.
Okay, great.
And hopefully he gets, he was my lead assistant in Russia last year. And hopefully he gets a head coaching job somewhere and maybe start out in Finland.
Okay. Great. That would be good news for the league here, for the chorus league. That would be great. Yeah, coming back home. That would be excellent. You've coached in the NBA and also in the top leagues in Europe, and you've seen a lot of great players, man, and good teams and so forth. What do you think is the biggest difference between the NBA and, let's say, the Euro League?
I would say athleticism.
Okay.
I mean, to me, that's the biggest difference. I think the skill level of the EuroLeague is really, really good. The skill level of the NBA is really, really good. Both leagues really have an emphasis on shooting nowadays. If you can't shoot, you got to be able to do something else great to play. And I just think the athleticism in the NBA is still head and heels over what the EuroLeague is.
Okay.
And then the best players in the NBA, obviously, their skill level is outstanding. I mean, I was around Kyrie Irving for a little bit, and I mean, his skill level is off the charts.
Yeah, you can, and I'm sure you would have to be around that every day and be up close to it, because you can't see everything on TV. You see part of it, but TV doesn't show it.
No, you can't. No, only when you're there in person. You
Yeah.
understand the skill level of some of these players. I mean, I saw when I was with Brooklyn, Kevin Durant was there. He wasn't playing because he was hurt, but I saw his workouts later in the year. Unbelievable.
Okay.
And I mean, not only the athleticism in the NBA, but the skill level of these top players is off the charts. And you don't really realize it until you're there in person and see them do an individual workout or.
Yeah. Yeah. With how difficult is it to actually coach in the NBA? Well, how difficult is it for a head coach in the NBA with all the players with the big egos?
Yeah, I think I was around Kenny Atkinson, Sam Mitchell. Not easy. A lot of it is player management. I think the biggest thing for these NBA coaches, they've got to develop relationships with their players. They've got to get trust, they've got to get respect. And to a certain extent, if you don't have your best two players on board with you, you're not going to last very long in the NBA as a coach. You have to, and it's a players' league. And when I was in Brooklyn, there was no morning practice anymore, no shoot-arounds. They practice hard when they practice, but there's so many games, it's very difficult. But it's really a players' league, and coaches really have to a lot of player development in the NBA, but the head coaches really have to develop relationships with players, and if they don't, they're not going to be there very long.
What do you think are some of the common characteristics of a very good coach?
think there's two different kinds of coaches. One, you can be a real good communicator, manager, and you have maybe your assistant coaches who do most of the coaching. That's not me. I think the other type of coach is you have knowledge of the game.
Okay.
And then you have to be able to teach it. You have to teach what you want your players to do. For me, if you don't teach it, you can't expect them to know it and do it in the game if you don't do it in practice. To me, the practice is your fundamental base of what you want to do, of where you want to start is in practice. If you don't do it in practice, you can't get to the game floor and do it. So I think there's two different types. I mean, and I also think national team coaching is a lot different than club coaching. I found that out a little bit now in this past month. So, but I think, you've got to have knowledge of what you want, and you got to be able to teach it.
What kind of advice would you give to a young coach that's just starting out? Let's say top level Finnish coach here, chorus leaguer coach, and he wants to go abroad to a higher level to coach. What kind of advice would you give?
Oh boy, it's a tough question. I think.
Yeah, I got something for you.
I just think you got to keep learning. You got to keep learning. You got to keep trying to get better. It's just like you and I, or you as a player. I mean, you're always trying to get better.
Exactly.
Keep learning, and I think the same situation as a coach. You got to keep learning. You're never really ready for the next step. You just got to dive in and do it. And I think for Finnish coaches who want to get abroad, they need to maybe go to the BBL or someplace in Europe as an assistant coach and work their way up. And it's the market is really, really tough right now. I think the Finnish league is great for getting coaching experience. But then it's so much different. For me, it was so much different when I got outside of Finland and started coaching than when I was in Finland. But the Finnish league is more professional now, I think. So, yeah, to answer your question, I just think you gotta keep learning. You gotta strive to get better and do what you can today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. But focus on what you can do today.
As a young player, you've worked with all age guys, young, old, whatever. As a young player, let's say a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid trying to improve his game and become a better player, what kind of advice would you give him?
I think there's three things in development. One are your genes, two is your upbringing, and then three is what you put into yourself for self-improvement. The first two are usually there. There's not much you can do about it.
Right.
Right?
Right.
The third one for me is huge. What is a player going to do to improve himself? His self-development, and to me, those three things are the makeup of a player. And there's some players who put a lot of work into self-development, and we as coaches can help, but we don't make players. We can help you to get where you want to get to. But you have to do the work, and you have to want to do the work, and for me, it's the investment you put in yourself to get better. And there are certain players that don't have good genes. They might not have a great upcoming, but the investment they put on themselves makes them a player. And it goes the opposite too. There can be players with real good genes and this and that, but they don't have any investment in getting themselves better.
That was going to be my next question. Do you think hard work can overcome talent sometimes?
I think to a certain extent it can, but then there could be a ceiling to how high you can play, and I think you do need good genes if you want to play at the highest level, and you need hard work. You don't need great genes, but you need good genes. But for me, there's no substitute for the investment you put in yourself as a player, and it's the same as a coach. The investment you put in yourself as developing as a coach. There's no shortcuts.
Okay. Which things do you think stay the same, whether you're coaching a club team, a national team, or just juniors? Which things do you think remain the same?
I think teaching the game remains the same. Developing players, developing the individual remains the same. I think it doesn't matter whatever level you are, you're still developing the individual. I think the better you can develop the individual, the better your team will be. But to me, it's 50-50, even when coaching at the club team, develop your individuals. And I tell our junior coaches when I coach, in Frankfurt, for example, with our junior teams, we run more plays, but I said they can never run more than 3 plays. They got to teach players how to play. Don't teach players plays, but teach them how to play. It's much more difficult. And even now, I'd go to teams and say, junior teams, you're going to run 2 plays, and teach these kids how to read, react, and play basketball. And I've seen some junior teams run 10, 12 plays. Well, all they do is 5-on-0 for 45 minutes. And,
yeah.
But I think that's the biggest thing at any level is player development and teaching.
When you played, you were known as a shooter, a guy who could shoot. Do you enjoy today's style of basketball with all the emphasis on shooting?
I had to learn how to shoot because I couldn't run or jump. The only way I could play. Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much emphasis on shooting now today because everybody wants spacing in their offense. And shooters give you spacing, and it gives spacing for your best players to play. It doesn't matter if it's NBA or Europe. And there's no reason why not everybody can become a real good shooter. You were a great shooter, and the toughest thing is becoming a better athlete, or getting basketball IQ.
Yes.
But everybody can become a real good shooter or a great shooter. It's time in the gym, and to a certain extent, it's mental.
Do you believe that you just spoke about basketball IQ? Do you believe that a player can up his basketball IQ, or he has what he has?
I think it's a little bit like athleticism.
Okay.
I think you can get better at it to a certain extent, and same with basketball IQ. But how much you can improve that is limited, in my opinion. I think it is what it is to a certain extent, and then you can get better at it a little bit. But I've seen kids with low basketball IQ at 18, and it is what it is when they're 23, 24. They get a little bit better.
Yeah.
Just by being in the system and understanding things, but it's never going to be great.
Okay. And
you understand the game, or you don't, to a certain extent.
Yeah, I'm of the same feelings because I've seen it a lot, man. You see it, and guys kind of still remain the same year after year after year, and it doesn't change much. Only thing that changes, they get a little older and they get a little bit more experience, but otherwise, it doesn't really change that much. So so you just took over the German men's national team. Uh, which is you must be excited about that.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I mean, I was only coaching Canada in the windows, and I was associate head coach in the summertime when Nick came in.
Okay.
Nick Nurse. This gives me a chance to be in full control of the national team program. And,
Okay.
I've dove in 100%. Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, we've got a great group of players. The federation's outstanding. We got Eurobasket in Germany next summer. So I'm really excited about the opportunity. And, I've learned a lot from coaching national teams with the Georgian team, with the Canadian team. Learned from Coach Detman in Finland with his national team.
Okay.
So I feel like you're never really ready for the next job, but I feel like, I've got my feet wet, and I'm really looking forward to this opportunity.
Do you have any? Will there be NBA players involved?
Yeah, right now we have 7 German players in the NBA. We have 5 German players in EuroLeague teams outside of Germany.
Okay.
We have about 7 or 8 EuroLeague players inside of Germany. So that's about 20 players right there who will not be able to play in the windows.
Wow.
Who can only play in the summertime.
Yeah.
And then we have about another 20 players playing in the German league that will comprise of our team in the windows.
So the question is, the way the rules are set up now, and I guess there's not much you can do about it, but if you can't use your best players, and there's a lot of countries like this, what's the point?
It's really difficult. I mean, the one positive, it gives a lot of young players a chance to represent your country. But then the other side is a lot of people say, well, there shouldn't be 30 national team players listed in Germany, or 40 team players. I think it's tough. I mean, until FIBA and EuroLeague get on the same page, we're going to have this problem. And for me as a national team coach, it is what it is. I have to be able to adjust. You can complain all you want. You have to be able to adjust to the situation and make the best of the situation that you have. And to a certain extent, we have 3 windows in Eurobasket. In the next year, we could have as many as 35 different players playing in those 4 competitions.
Wow.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. Yes, it is. So we're gonna end this on a final question. How have you seen Finnish basketball from your time of playing, after you're playing, coaching, and up to now? How do you see it?
It's a tough question for me to answer. When my oldest son Mikael stopped playing, I haven't watched any Chorus League games really.
Okay. What about the national team games?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched a little bit now because the Westland kids are playing.
Yeah.
They were playing. Yeah, I think the national team did great. It was about 6-7 years ago. They really took off.
Yes.
And now kind of Murtala's gone, and Petri Koponen is kind of at the end of his career. Sean Huff.
Yeah, Teemu Rannikko as well. Yeah.
Can't forget about him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a changing of a guard for the national team right now, I think. And the good thing is that because I don't think there's any players playing in the EuroLeague right now, and there's only marketing in the NBA, they have access to all their players.
That's true. That's true.
We have a chance to really build with those players. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years, because they have a lot of young players coming in, and a lot of the older players that really established the national team are kind of on their way out or already out. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what happens there. Yeah, I think they've done really, really well. Coach Detman's done a great job building that program up the last 10 years. And, you know, can they take the next step or not? I mean, it's tough to say.
Okay. Well, yeah.
There's so many good teams in Europe right now. I mean, there's 12 or 15 really, really good teams in Europe. The competition is really tough.
Which team is ranked number one in Europe now?
I would say the top three would be Spain, France, and Serbia.
Okay.
And then you could flip a coin on the next 10.
Okay, yeah. So it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. But I'm sure you look forward to the challenge, and I'm sure, Gordy, you will be up to the challenge. And I'm gonna say thank you for your time, man. I know you're a busy guy. Good luck. Good luck with the national team. And when you get to Finland, give me a call and say moi.
Bernard, appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Gordy. Talk to you later, man.